Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. The State of the Union address is supposed to be a constitutional report. It's supposed to be a sober accounting from the President to Congress concerning the condition of the Republic and the recommendations that he judges are necessary and expedient. So you look at Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution. It actually states this. The President shall from time to time give the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. In other words, the address exists to inform, to propose, to unify the branches and, in fact, every politician around the common good of the nation. During the State of the Union address, the premise is that we are no longer divided parties, we are one union. Originally, it really was exactly that. George Washington delivered the first annual message in person. This was in 1790. Standing before Congress in New York City, he spoke with dignity, and Jefferson discontinued the in-person offering of the speech in 1801 because he thought it was a bit monarchical in tone. So what he did was he wrote his message and his clerk read it out. That written format endured for more than a century, but the report followed the same premise that I shared with you. Functional, concise, devoid of theatrical flourish. Then in 1913, Woodrow Wilson revived the in-person address. He delivered his message directly to Congress. Wilson believed that personal presence would strengthen executive leadership and also help shape the legislative priorities of the entire nation. The modern presidency, the rhetorical reach, the national platform, effectively began there. The State of the Union slowly evolved from report to performance. Television accelerated that transformation. In 1965, Lyndon B. Johnson moved the address to prime time. He wanted to ensure maximum audience exposure. By then, though, the speech had become a national broadcast event. It wasn't an internal constitutional communication anymore. Presidents then increasingly framed the evening as a public appeal over the heads of Congress to the American people. And the shift has had consequences. Because once the address became a televised spectacle, the incentive for the address changed from reporting into trying to sway and persuade the Republic. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been moments of gravity. Franklin D. Roosevelt, he used his 1941 address to articulate the four freedoms. He situated our American purpose within this global moral struggle. He was right. Ronald Reagan in 1982, he introduced the story of Lenny Skutnik. He inaugurated the tradition of highlighting private citizens as embodiments of American civic virtue. That's respectable. Bill Clinton, 1996, he declared that the era of big government is over. What he was signaling was a triangulation of an era of divided government and divided opportunities and powers in government. Now, at their best, these speeches were an attempt to bind the country together in a shared vision, or at least shared aspiration. The problem was there was a decisive cultural turn in 1995. During a State of the Union address that year, Bill Clinton, repeatedly framed policy disputes in openly partisan terms. And then he positioned himself as the defender of the ordinary Americans against a Republican Congress. That speech followed the 1994 Republican Revolution and unfolded amid a looming government shutdown. So rather than functioning as a constitutional report by an executive who represents the entire Union, the address was a strategic campaign moment to secure re-election in 1996. The applause lines were actually calibrated, and the contrast between the parties were sharpened. The opposing party was cast as opponents, obstructionists, extremes. The speech actually succeeded, according to the polls, and Clinton won re-election. Unfortunately, that also set a template, and that's endured to this day, because from that point forward, the State of the Union address increasingly resembled extended campaign rallies, except that it's staged inside the House chamber. The president speaks, rather than as the executive of the whole republic, he speaks as the head of a political coalition and faction. And so he's addressing his adversaries across the aisle rather than the union of the republic. And so the rhetorical center of gravity has shifted from the stewardship of the entire institution to a contest of factions. And unfortunately, that result is visible year after year. Members of Congress coordinate their wardrobe themes as if they're attending some kind of a gala dinner. Representatives hold up signs, they stage walkouts, or they engineer moments for viral clips. In recent years, the evening has included theatrical gestures. Nancy Pelosi tearing up a printed copy of the president's speech behind him, members shouting interruptions, wearing protest symbols, treating the chamber as a stage for brand management and outrage. And so what happens? The chief executive reciprocates the drama. References to the opposing party become increasingly accusatory and clownish. Policy disagreements are framed as moral failures of the other side. The words Democrats or Republicans are thrown out. They're rhetorical foil. We don't see each other as colleagues in governance working toward the common good anymore. The speech is a catalog of partisan victories and partisan villains. And when applause erupts, it's typically from one side to debunk the other. Washington warned us against this. I've quoted his farewell address multiple times on this program. He cautioned, "The spirit of party serves always to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration." He even added, "It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms. It kindles the animosity of one part against another." His language reads less like 18th century abstraction and more like a preview of modern cable news. The founders understood factions as the inevitable expression of human difference, but they feared the consolidation of our identity around political factions. The State of the Union was intended to function as a opportunity for institutional cohesion, a reminder that even though we disagree, all the branches have one shared responsibility, the same republic. It's meant to be a unifying premise. Instead, the annual event now dramatizes division. Approval ratings rarely move after the speech. Those who admire the president, they applaud enthusiastically. Those who oppose him watch with clenched jaws and clenched fists, or they might not even watch altogether. And then, the very next day, polls will reflect the preferences of viewers. The thing is, those preferences will already incline one way or the other. Millions will stream entertainment programming and remain blissfully disengaged, but whether we like it or not, the State of the Union is a global affair. I mean, I watched every State of the Union as a child growing up in Malaysia. The address, unfortunately today, is a high-production echo chamber. And this shift towards this performative confrontation, it's reinforcing the incentives for partisan divide. Why? Because outrage is traveling faster than rational policy analysis. And the incentives on social media especially are rewarding explosive spectacle. We're seeing a cultural fatigue. Our constitutional architecture is still intact, don't get me wrong, but our civic ethos is weakening. Americans, citizens of the United States, it's almost as if we're ashamed to call ourselves citizens of the Republic. And yet, if we take that away, we share little else. Because being a member of this Republic means that we are choosing to ascribe to the founding ideals and principles that this republic was framed upon and built upon. One evening designed to express unity is now routinely being used to sow further fragmentation. The vice president and speaker sit behind the president, carefully choreographed neutrality, but the rest of the room vibrates with partisan energy. It's competitive pageantry. It's a circus. But the structure still matters, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying throw away the book. The president addresses Congress in person. The Supreme Court justices sit in attendance. The cabinet fills the front rows. The ritual affirms the notion of separation of powers, even if it's more rhetorical than systematic today. And so the question we are presented is, what is the state of our union? Well, frankly, I think it's pretty obvious. We are deeply divided. And we are increasingly accustomed to that division being normal. And that's why I think the way forward is less pageantry, more candor, constitutional honesty. Our republic can endure sharp debate if we re-engage things with reason rather than sustained contempt. The state of our union once symbolized shared responsibility for the common good of the nation. Today we're looking at the state of our divided union, but we can find a way back. Stay tuned, I'm Marcus Peter.